What is good, Josh on the Spool Game, man? Back with yet another reaction video, baby. Today, we're back with another Anime Tuesday, man. Not starting my review series just yet. Just to give you guys a little bit of a heads up, I will be starting to review animes that I have finished here on the channel. It won't be part of Anime Tuesdays. I'll drop it, throughout the week. So, if you guys want more anime content, hit that bell for your boy, man, so you guys can know those videos going live, and subscribe. If you're brand new to the family, want to watch more anime content from me, your boy, the Black Okage, and we definitely will go ahead and put some more of those out. Now, I did put a poll up in the community tab, so you guys can go vote on that. That would be beautiful here for me before I get those started. I just need to know, you guys want each of those animes to get their own episode, or their own episode, video, or do you want me to kind of combine them into one video? Because I've watched and finished about 14 to somewhere around 14 to 17 different anime. I gotta go back and look at my list, somewhere around that range. So that's a lot of different animes. So I understand if you guys don't want a video on every single one, because they're not all the mainstream ones. There's some that are like you might not even know about that might put you guys on. So let me know if you want them to have their own videos, or if you want me to combine them into like 2 or 3 videos and kind of just like combine them together to make 2 or 3 big videos, or just 14 smaller videos. So that would be important to me. If you guys would comment it down below, or go over to that community tab and vote for your boy. That's all I need. Just vote. Just click and vote. That's it. You don't even have to comment, like, nothing. Just vote for your boy, so I know what you guys' opinions are, what you guys want to see. But outside of that, today we have Naruto Strongest Swordsman ranked and explained. I wanted to go ahead and hop into this one. It's one of the brand new ones. I have a bunch of other ones like stacked up for when new ones don't drop that I want to react to. So I have others that we want to get to later about different animes. But today we're back on Naruto, man. So it's your boy rocking the Minato shirt. Had to put my dad on my shirt, you know what I'm saying, to watch this video. So, you never really used the sword like that, bro. He probably still could though if he tried. Let's get into this heat.
In today's installment of videos that Nick literally cannot believe he hasn't filmed yet, today we're going to be talking about the top 10 strongest sword users in Naruto. Yeah, after running a channel for 4 years, one would have assumed I would have gotten to that incredibly popular and pertinent topic. But no, has somehow never done it. I've ranked the 7 swordsmen of the mist, I've ranked the strongest swordsmen across all anime, but I've never ranked the top 10 strongest swordsmen in Naruto, which is like insane. So anyways, I know I usually have clever intros, but let's get directly into it here, because today we're talking the top 10 strongest swordsmen in Naruto.
Oh, and who on this list you guys think cracks the top? I mean, I feel like Sasuke gotta be in the top 3 as much as it's gonna pain him to do it. I feel like Killer B wielding 8 swords has to be at least top 3, bare minimum top 5. I don't know if we're gonna see Mifune get on there though. No, I mean, a samurai sword user when everybody else is using ninjutsu is cool. I mean, they're out of the top 10 best. He might crack the list. He might.
Ranked and explained. There's a small contingent of people who are mad that my intro wasn't longer, but there's a larger contingent of people who are happy that it was as short as it was. Anyways, before we get to ranking or explaining anything, guys, please,
let me know down below. Y'all want my intro shorter or longer?
Like, and hit that notification bell. So it's important to note today that we're not going to be talking about the strongest swordsman in Naruto, because the strongest swordsman in Naruto is just a measure of how strong somebody is who also so happens to wield a blade occasionally. And while a lot of the very strong people in the Naruto universe do have swords and do use them occasionally, to call them the best swordsmen in the Naruto universe just feels disingenuous. And thus today is going to be a measure of pure swordsmanship.
Okay,
power will be taken into account at least a little bit. I mean, obviously you have to be a somewhat accomplished fighter to be considered a great swordsman. Today we'll more be focusing on the swordsmanship feats and how often the individual members on this list use their swords when entering into combat. All that is to say, in summation, that this list is more about how well individual people use swords than how powerful they themselves are. Got it? Good. Let's get into the list. At our number 10 spot,
I'm about to say, I feel like he said all of that because number 10 is about to be crazy and outlandish. And look who pops up on my screen first. Orochimaru. Outside of using, have we really seen him use his sword that often? Outside of like the first, Konan Crush arc, did he pick up a sword again?
Which is technically last place, but still makes them one of the most powerful swordsmen in the entire universe. We have Orochimaru. Now, when you think of Orochimaru, you probably don't think of swordsmanship. You think snakes, you think hopping bodies, you think unethical science experiments. But Orochimaru is what's known in the anime community as an all-arounder. I mean, Orochimaru's singular fascination in the entire world is to try and learn everything about everything. Orochimaru wants to learn every ninjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu, senjutsu, and kenjutsu move that exists exists. And while becoming practiced in the blade doesn't necessarily require human sacrifice, and is also probably a bit easier than trying to make a clone of yourself that has access to perfect snake stage mode, reinventing Edo Tensei, or unlocking the code on immortality, because of Orochimaru's fascination with understanding any and all jutsu, Orochimaru is an incredibly practiced Kenjutsu user. And it's important to note here that Kenjutsu basically just means bladesmanship in Japanese. And Orochimaru's affinity with the blade is shown pretty much as soon as they're introduced as a character. See, Orochimaru is one of the few people in Naruto world to wield a named blade, as they wield the Blade of Kusanagi, a legendary sword they keep inside of themselves. And the Blade of Kusanagi is legendary for a reason. See, because not only is the Blade of Kusanagi nigh indestructible, it's also stated to be able to cut through almost anything, to the point where when Monkey King Enma turned himself into an adamantite staff, and adamantite is the hardest substance in the Naruto universe, that when Hiruzen used this adamantite staff to go toe-to-toe against Orochimaru in a Kenjutsu battle, Monkey King Enma said in his staff form that after this battle he would be covered in bruises because of the power of the Blade of Kusanagi. And therefore the Blade of Kusanagi wasn't able to cut through adamantite, and that's because nothing can cut through adamantite in the Naruto universe. The Blade of Kusanagi was able to damage adamantite, which is something that literally nothing else has ever been able to do. On top of this, like the Monkey King Enma bow staff, the sword of Kusanagi actually can be extended to great lengths. And Orochimaru is able to remotely control the blade, which is why we got Hiruzen and Monkey King Enma holding that blade for 14 episodes while Hiruzen refused to die. But it's not just Orochimaru's legendary blade that makes them an incredibly talented Kenjutsu user. They also have the technique to back it up, best displayed in Boruto when Orochimaru went toe-to-toe with Log. And while technically this was an orchestrated fight to make Mitsuki unlock his Snake Sage mode, the Kenjutsu displayed by Orochimaru in this moment while battling against Log is some of the highest we've ever seen in the Naruto universe. So because they're good at everything, they have a legendary blade, and we've seen them in some high-level sword fights, Orochimaru is going to get our 10 spot. But
y'all agree that's necessary? I don't necessarily agree with it. We haven't seen him do anything with the sword. If we're going off of his swordsmanship, he has a strong sword. Yes, he is strong. Yes. But you said it's about his swordsmanship, like how well he wields the blade, how well he fights with the blade. And we've only seen him out, like, that's the only fight. I mean, I guess the Boruto fight, 2 times we see him use a sword. Are there not other, you can't name me 10 other better people that have used it more frequently? I feel like that's hard to believe. And now I'm looking at Kakashi on the screen. I mean, he had a dagger as a child, but when have we seen him pull out another sword?
Orochimaru isn't going to be the only person on this list who, when you think of them, you don't immediately think swordsman, because coming up at number 9, we have Kakashi. Now listen, Kakashi is literally the definition of an all-arounder. With his Sharingan, he was said to have stolen 1,000 jutsus. And as a Sharingan not only allows you to steal the ninjutsu of your opponents, but also the taijutsu and genjutsu of your opponents, it's also safe to assume that it allows for you to steal the kenjutsu of your opponents, which is quite possibly a pretty good explanation as to why Kakashi is so incredibly talented in the field of Kenjutsu. But a lot of you are probably saying right now, oh, but Nick, Kakashi doesn't use a sword. And for the majority of Naruto's story, yes, you are correct. Kakashi doesn't really use a sword. Kakashi, as a child, did receive the white chakra saber from Sakamoto Hatsuki, his father, and while he used it to some degree of success as a genin and a chunin, pretty much in the first moment that it mattered, which was in the Tenchi Bridge arc, the arc where Obito saves Kakashi's life and supposedly dies, the white chakra saber given to Kakashi by his father is destroyed, and he never uses it again. Now, after the destruction of the white chakra saber, Kakashi doesn't use a blade again for a long time. However, just because Kakashi doesn't necessarily use a sword does not mean he is not practicing Kenjutsu. See, because Kakashi, in the literal first arc of Naruto, the Land of Waves arc, goes toe-to-toe with one of the deadliest ever 7 Swordsmen of the Mist in Zabuza while he's wielding the Executioner Blade, and Kakashi's able to battle against him in a battle of swords play with just kunai. See, there are multiple times when Kakashi is able to either stop the Executioner Blade with just the kunai, or press the offensive against Zabuza just using what effectively boils down to a ninja's steak knife. Tie this into moments like Kakashi's battle against Obito, which is majorly taijutsu and kenjutsu, and we see Kakashi pulling apps.
So I mean, do y'all consider that too as well? I mean, I might be tripping. I never thought using a kunai I never thought of it as kenjutsu. Me personally, I just never have. But if we're gonna include that, then I see why he's on this list. I mean, obviously he's done some impressive things with the kunai. I'm not gonna lie to you. So I can see why he's on the list if we're including that. I just never thought of it as one. Let me know if I'm tripping, or maybe I'm in the minority. Maybe I should start to think of it like that more.
absolutely insane kunai tricks, like dropping his kunai to try and grab it with the other hand and slash Obito, or popping his kunai into the air and then literally flipping to kick it down at Obito, scratching his face. But see, when it comes to kunai play, very few people have displayed as high a level as Kakashi has.
Yeah.
However, if you don't want to count kunai into this equation, that's fine. I can't say I blame you. So rather, instead, let's talk about in the fourth Great Shinobi Worlds War, where Kakashi just was a swordsman. See, Kakashi got his hands on the Executioner Blade temporarily, and he used it to battle against numerous Edo Tensei reincarnations. But the most notable people that Kakashi went toe-to-toe against while wielding the Executioner Blade were the reincarnated Seven Swordsmen of the Mist. As Kakashi went head-to-head with the previous wielder of the Sewing Needle and the Explosive Axe simultaneously while wielding the Executioner Blade, while they also had the distinct advantage of being Edo Tensei reincarnations, and thus they didn't have to worry about hitting each other with their own attacks. And while that fight doesn't technically come to a conclusion until Might Guy flies onto the scene and helps seal away those two former Seven Swordsmen of the Mist, the fact that Kakashi was able to stand up against two of the most legendary swordsmen simultaneously while they had infinite chakra and infinitely regenerating bodies, all while wielding one of the blades that came from their group, proves that as an all-arounder, he truly might be the GOAT.
I get it.
Considering the fact that he was wielding the sword of the—
I get it, Tom. That's my fault. I did forget about the war art. That's my fault.
The guy that he basically killed with a flurry of kunai. Yeah, I'd say he deserved to use it. Anyways, while we're on the topic of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist,
low.
that brings us to our number 8
spot.
Thought he had
in top
coming up
5.
at
I'm
number
not gonna lie
8,
to you.
we have Kisame. Now I know some of you are saying Kisame is one of the strongest swordsmen in the universe. How dare you put him at 8? And that's fair. It's a well-known fact that Samehada is one of, if not the hardest to wield out of the 7 Swords of the Mist, and that wielders of Samehada are almost always the strongest current member of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist. This is why Fuguki was the only person in the manga to survive the battle against Might Guy, and why Kisame was the last amongst any iteration of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist standing. Unless you count Suigetsu. But if we're being real, Samehada should barely be considered a sword. It is a shark on a stick. Yes, in the Naruto universes, Kisame talked about as one of the most powerful swordsmen to ever exist, 100%. And his brute strength and straightforward kenjutsu style, backed by the fact that he was one of the most physically strong people in the Naruto universe, made him a borderline invaluable foe to even the strongest of shinobi. This is why people like Might Guy, who were able to kick a literal hole in Madara, had to open to the 7th gate just to beat him. And the only person who was ever able to kill him was, well, himself. Tie this into the fact that Kisame was able to cut down Fuguki, the previous wielder of Samehada, with just a standard katana, when he realized that Fuguki was acting as a traitor against the Hidden Mist. And that right there is one of the most impressive kenjutsu feats possibly ever. However, Fuguki didn't necessarily know that Kisame was coming to cut him down. But what Kisame is obviously best known for is the usage of Samehada, a sword that instead of cleaving flesh, ripped it. A sentient shark skin blade that once it ripped your skin open would continually absorb your chakra until you were completely tapped. However, that's really all Samehada needs to do. See, Samehada works symbiotically with its user. It is a ridiculously chakra-hungry sentient being that only can be wielded by those with incredibly high amounts of chakra, because when Samehada isn't eating the chakra of foes that it slashed, it's consuming the chakra of its wielder. Well, if this sounds like an unfair shake, don't worry, Samehada has other aspects to it, like the fact that the wielder of Samehada is actually able to fuse with Samehada to increase their overall power, chakra output, and heal their body. On top of this, when somebody fuses with Samehada, they're able to breathe underwater. They basically become a human-shark hybrid. Not that Kisame wasn't already a human-shark hybrid, but you get it. On top of this, because Samehada and its wielder have almost identical chakra signatures, on account of the fact that Samehada is kind of an extension of the wielder, wielders of Samehada are actually able to hide inside of Samehada, which is how Kisame was able to infiltrate the hidden cloud when Samehada supposedly gave him up and switched over to Killer Bee. And thus, while Kisame is probably the most competent user of Samehada we've ever seen, considering the fact that Samehada is kind of like an extendable shark club, makes me feel not so good about putting Kisame all that high on this list. Especially not higher than our number 7 entry on this list, because our number 7 entry on this list mastered a whole lot more than just one blade from the 7 Swords of the Mist. Because coming up at number 7, we have Suigetsu. Now, the Hozuki clan are essentially a royal clan from the Hidden Mist.
I mean, you gotta get that to him. My dude really did pick up several different swords and master them pretty quickly. We haven't seen him do all of them, but he got a couple of them.
Whether it was Gengetsu Hozuki, the second Mizukage, Mongetsu
Now, water
Hozuki, one of the
hydrification did
most
help out
prominent
with the
members of the
strength
Seven
part,
Swordsmen of the Mist ever, or Suigetsu Hozuki, who was a part of Hebi and Taka and is one of Orochimaru's underlings, every single member of the Hozuki clan that we know of has been incredibly important in the history of the Hidden Mist. Because, ironically, even though Gengetsu Hozuki was the second Mizukage, he's the only Hozuki we know of who wasn't absolutely obsessed with the Seven Swords of the Mist. See, Suigetsu wants to be exactly like his older brother, Mongetsu. That is to say that he wants to collect all of the Seven Swords of the Mist and master them. And while he never achieves this goal, as all Seven Swords of the Mist eventually end up back in the Hidden Mist Village by the time that Boruto rolls around, Suigetsu does accomplish acquiring the Executioner Blade at a level higher than we ever saw either Zabuza and maybe Kakashi ever use it. And that's because he has the Executioner Blade longer than anybody else we've ever seen wield it. However, he wields it in a very different way from both Kakashi and Zabuza, who apparently have the strength in one arm to wield it with ease, but Suigetsu, who is apparently much weaker than either Zabuza or Kakashi, needs to wield the blade with two hands. However, when it comes down to an absolute necessity, because of Suigetsu's hydrification Hozuki technique, he's able to make his arms bigger and therefore stronger, allowing him to wield the blade with much more ease. And because of the adaptability of his body and how long he's had the Executioner's Blade, we've seen him pull off some relatively impressive Kenjutsu feats, like intercepting an attack from Killer Bee's blades, intercepting an attack from the fourth Raikage, who was about to knock out Sasuke, and on top of all this, he's been shown to be able to go toe-to-toe with the likes of Darui, who later became a Raikage with a broken version of the Executioner's Blade. So while Suigetsu was never able to accomplish his goal of collecting all the Seven Swords of the Mist, probably because Kabuto was doing it simultaneously so he could give all of the swords to the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist when they were brought back in the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, bad time to be collecting those swords, he's still one of the most impressive Kenjutsu users we've seen in Naruto. But not more impressive than that future Raikage we just talked about, because coming up at number 6, we have Darui. See, Darui wields a broadsword. An odd broadsword that has to be unfolded after it's unsheathed. It's a...
But that thing look like one of them razor blades you should... when your barber gets you right with the lineup, bro, you just unpull you real quick. Like, that's literally what that thing looks like. It just popped out, just...
weird design. Anyways, the majority of Darui's power actually comes from his Kenjutsu, which isn't uncommon in the Village of the Clouds. Another thing that isn't uncommon in the Village of the Clouds is lightning release, something that Darui is able to imbue into his blade to either increase its cutting power or to make sure that Suigetsu can't go anywhere when pinned against a wall. See, because I know we just talked about the fact that Suigetsu was able to battle against Darui with a broken Executioner's Blade, but Darui wins that fight, pinning Suigetsu against a wall with his electrified sword so Suigetsu can't go anywhere, using his hydrification technique. But Darui wasn't satisfied with just defeating Suigetsu, as Darui also went toe-to-toe with the likes of Kinkaku and Ginkaku in the Fourth Great Shinobi World War as Edo Tensei reincarnations, a combined fighting force that I guess minus 20 S-class ninjas literally killed Tobirama. And during the course of this battle against these two legendary ninja from the very village that he hails from, not only was Darui able to hold his own, he was able to defeat Kinkaku and Ginkaku, knocking Ginkaku into Kinkaku's Kokinjo and seizing the Shiki Saiken and the Benishago. But after defeating Ginkaku and Kinkaku, the descendants of Hagoromo, Darui still wasn't done. As in Boruto during the Momoshiki arc, Darui and the rest of the Kage went to battle against Kinshiki and Momoshiki, and Darui's Kenjutsu skills were so incredibly impressive, he was able to put pressure on Momoshiki, putting him on the defensive. And that is absolutely by far and away the most impressive feat we've talked about yet on this list. But since we're talking about putting pressure on Momoshiki and Kinshiki, next up on our list at number 5 is Sasuke.
At least he made him top 6 or top 5. I thought maybe more so top 3. So we'll see who the at least the one, like the two people in front of him are that at least kicked him out of the top 3. But I'll say at least he made him top 5.
Okay.
Oh, Nick, what do you mean Sasuke's the strongest swordsman in the entirety of the
I ain't acting like that though.
No, he's not. And that's not even me hating. Yes,
oh yeah, and speaking of which, y'all, in case y'all didn't know, your boy actually had, like, no, I feel like it's actually much deserved for this video. What we talking about him? Give me 1 second. Your boy actually does have a, you see the Uchiha crest on it. I hope y'all can, you know what I'm saying? Let me see if I get it closer. There we go. Lean it back like that. Uchiha crest on it. And yes, I mean, it's fake, YouTube. It is fake. You know what I'm saying? It's a replica. But it's the full, you know what I'm saying? Now, yes, it is fake, though. Like, it's dulled down. It's not, like, actually going to cut nothing. But I could sharpen it if I want to, though. But while we're talking about Sasuke, why don't I keep this on?
I understand that Boruto Sasuke is much more reliant on his sword than any iteration of Sasuke previously. So much so that literally the only thing he could pass down to Boruto at the end of his, well, I guess, natural, non-tree-based life was his sword. But at the end of the day, Sasuke is not a swordsman. Yes, he uses a sword a fair amount of the time when he's fighting, but Sasuke's bag is literally so much deeper than him being a swordsman. This point is best illustrated by the fact that his Susanoo literally has a bow and arrow. Madara, swords. Kakashi, shuriken. Shisui, a lance thingy. Itachi, sword. But Sasuke has a bow and arrow. And yes, I know occasionally with his Susanoo ribcage, arm, face thing, he'll use a sword. But like his incomplete and complete and perfect Susanoo all don't use blades. Well, it's actually not entirely true. In the 4th Great Shinobi World War, his Susanoo does generate 2 katanas to cut down Madara's meteors after Madara awakes to his 3rd Rinnegan.
And but I hear a lot of contradictions right now. And then we, like Kakashi's, but we talked about everybody else's back being deeper for being all arounds. They ain't using swords like that, but we've seen him go to toe to toe. You just talked about pressing an Otsutsuki. He borderline defeated the only Otsutsuki we've seen be a main sword user. So,
but like it's usually about, okay, sometimes it's swords. The more I remembered, the less important that point got. But the fact that he oscillates between swords and bow and arrows speaks to what I said earlier, that his bag is ridiculously deep. And therefore is not nearly as reliant on swordplay as a lot of the people on this list. But yes, as a swordsman, is he top 5 in the universe? 100%. Whether it's going toe-to-toe with the likes of Killer Bee using his 8-sword style, and for the most part being able to deflect any and all incoming attacks with his own blade, or battling against Kinshiki and Momoshiki simultaneously using his katana, Sasuke has multiple times shown that he's one of the most impressive Kenjutsu users in the entire Naruto universe. However, he throws his blade and uses it as a place to jump to for his heavenly hand power teleportation technique more than he uses it to stab people. And well, I guess you could say that as a form of Kenjutsu, a lot of the bladed conquests that Sasuke gets into don't necessarily end up super well for him. So whether it's Killer Bee filling him full of holes with his 8 blades, him trying to battle against the 4th Raikage and needing to be saved by Obito, or even him trying to stab Madara in the back as Madara was gloating to Tobirama, we pinned to the ground using chakra rods, to simply be frozen in the air by Madara's limbo clone and then stabbed through the heart with his own blade.
The hatred of Sasuke is crazy. We ain't freeze framed, froze framed. We ain't stayed on one image this long the entire video. Come on, bro. You just wanted an excuse to show Sasuke getting stabbed.
By Madara. When it comes down to it, while Sasuke is an impressive swordsman, unfortunately it doesn't always pan out the best for him when he tries to use his sword. But his ability to channel his Chidori through his sword not only makes it one of the sharpest objects in the entire Naruto universe, but it also makes his blade extendable, which allows for him to do things like stab through doors into Orochimaru. And thus, even though when Sasuke does end up trying to use his blade, he either uses it as a thing to teleport to, abandons it, or gets stabbed through the heart with it, I'm gonna give him number 5 on this list. Since we're talking about people who were involved in that battle against Momoshiki,
I'm just gonna ask one question. I really don't care what you guys' answers are. You can put it down below. I'm not gonna argue your answer. If you do believe the other way, I just want to know whose side on this side. Sword only. Sasuke. And I'm gonna need him to say his name in a second because I forgot. You gonna tell me that he gonna beat Sasuke just talking about swords? I don't believe it. Me personally, I don't believe it. Let me know down below what you guys think. I don't believe it.
Coming up at our number 4 spot, we have the current Mizukage, Chojuro.
Chojiro's not more powerful than Sasuke.
Not what we're talking about. We're talking about who's the better swordsman. And Chojuro is objectively the better swordsman. See, Chojuro before...
I love that word, objectively. Love the word objectively so much.
Before becoming the 5th Mizukage, was the protector of the 4th Mizukage, Mei. And on top of this, he was one of the last 7 swordsmen of the Mist and a wielder of the Split Blade. See, even amongst the 7 swordsmen of the Mist, Chojuro is referred to as a master swordsman. And amongst the 5 Kage right now, he is stated to be the best assassin and best swordsman, which means that he's an even better swordsman than Darui, which is why it makes sense that he was picked to be the wielder of the Split Blade, which is, outside of Samehada, noted to be the hardest blade to wield out of the 7 swords of the Mist. And this is because the Split Blade is so much more than just a standard blade. It's more than just 2 standard blades. See, the Split Blade operate on basically the same principle as Asuma's chakra blades. However, instead of just extending the reach of the blades by funneling chakra into them, the Split Blade is able to take on any shape so long as you apply your chakra into that shape. And thus it requires a high amount of chakra control and versatility to be wielded. 2 things that Chojuro absolutely has, as he's not only displayed coating his weapon in chakra, extending its reach and making it sharper, but he's also displayed the ability to turn his split blade into a gigantic hammer that he was able to smash Sasuke through a wall with. On top of this, he's also displayed the ability to turn his split sword into a gigantic long sword that can hit multiple opponents at once. And he's only gotten better with the weapon as Mizukage, as he's now shown the ability to be able to fire projectiles from his weapon, create a copy of it for dual wielding, and generate multiple knives from the chakra of the weapon that can be thrown into the clothing or bodies of enemies to immobilize them. On top of this, as Mizukage, he was able to, while wielding the split blade, to go toe-to-toe with the likes of Kinshiki. And he stated to have literally no equal in Kenjutsu while wielding the split blade. But even when he doesn't have this legendary weapon, he's still a ridiculous Kenjutsu user. As in the Boruto anime, with just a standard beaten up and broken katana, he took on the self-proclaimed new 7 Swordsman of the Mist, who had 3 out of the 7 swords of the Mist. And with multiple puncture wounds and a broken sword, he defeated them with relative ease. Listen, is he powerful for a Kage? No, not really. But is he one of the crazier sword users in Naruto history? Yes, 100%. Since talking about legendary swordsmen from the Hidden Mist, we might as well talk about our number 3 entry, because coming up at number...
Man, we don't even really see fight alive. Give me Sasuke top 3. Drop both of them down one spot, at least.
3,
and get
we have Mangetsu Hozuki. See, we don't know a lot about Mangetsu Hozuki, as they were dead before the events of Naruto's timeline. And unfortunately, even in the 4th Great Shinobi World War, when Mangetsu Hozuki was brought back to life, we didn't get to see all that much from him, because, well, when the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist did enter into the battlefield and use their Hidden Mist technique, and Mangetsu began to use silent killing, taking out shinobi left, right, and center with his water release, even though he, as probably the most important member of the 7 Swords of the Mist, was entrusted with the scroll that had all of the legendary weapons of the 7 swords, he himself didn't actually get any of the 7 swords of the Mist heading into this combat. And thus, we really didn't get to see what a peak power Mangetsu Hozuki would look like, because he didn't have any of the weapons he trained his entire life to be incredibly proficient with on him. However, what we do know about Mangetsu Hozuki is that he was able to massively wield all 7 swords of the Hidden Mist. And his power was apparently so great that, according to his younger brother Suigetsu, he was referred to as the second coming of the demon, as in a kind of reincarnation of Zabuza. And this makes a lot of sense when you consider the fact the level of skill that would be required to master all 7 blades, when you throw in things like the split sword and Samehara in there. And thus, from a straight up Kenjutsu perspective, you can't make a list of the greatest swordsmen in Naruto without Mangetsu Hozuki. Sure, we don't know a lot about him, but what we do know about him is more impressive.
And I feel like I want to see it, though. I want to see it. They can say whatever they want to, and then when they write it, I mean, there's a lot of things that have been said. And we said Kurenai was the best Genjutsu user in all of Naruto. Do we ever see it? No. So does anybody ever believe it? No. Does anybody ever rank her high on the Genjutsu list? No. But she was said to be, though. I mean, that's just one example. That's one example. There's a lot of things that are said, put in data books, put in light novels and all this stuff, and then when you don't see it actually happen, I mean... Can I see a little bit first? Especially if we're going to list somebody top 3. I mean, I'll give them on the list. But top 3? Top 3.
Impressive than basically everything we know about any other swordsman in Naruto. But enough about all these ninjas and their multiple weapons and their ninjutsu and applying lightning release to their swords. Let's get back to the basics. Because coming up at our number 2 spot is the leader of the Land of Iron, the head samurai, Mifune. See, Mifune is a samurai, so all of his power is dependent on how powerful his Kenjutsu is. However, even though all of his power is tied to his Kenjutsu, he doesn't wield some legendary blade. While his blade does have the name the Black Swamp, that name doesn't convey any special powers. It's just named that because of the legendary samurai his sword is attached to. Now, Mifune is renowned in the Naruto world as a master of Iai Jutsu. That is to say, incredibly quick strikes that come out of his sheath. And this mastery over Iai Jutsu is so proficient and so well known in the Naruto universe that people like Hanzo the Salamander have stated that trying to use any techniques that require hand seals in combat against Mifune is a fruitless endeavor, because before you get the jutsu off, he will close the distance and cut you down. Yeah, Hanzo the Salamander, the guy who probably went toe-to-toe with Sakamo Hatsuke, absolutely went toe-to-toe with Granichio a couple of times, and beat back the Hidden Stone Village, the Hidden Leaf Village, and the 3 legendary Sannin working together simultaneously while they all had had access to the three-way deadlock, said, yeah, you gotta keep an eye on Mifune. This man can strike so precisely and so quickly that when he attacks somebody, he doesn't stain his sword with blood. Not to mention he is able to strike with so much power that he's able to slice open the head of a monstrous summoning like the Black Salamander Ibuse. And while he isn't a ninja, he is able to channel chakra into his blade to increase its cutting power and fire off long-range slice attacks. He is literally so nice with the blade, they show him slicing a candle and keeping the candle lit by keeping the end that he cut off on the tip of his blade. And while he may not have been victorious in his battle against Hanzo while the two of them were alive, he does cut down Hanzo after Hanzo was brought back using Edo Tensei in the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, though Hanzo does kind of help him. So yeah, for being the commander of all samurai in the Naruto universe, Mifune is getting our number 2 spot. But he's still falling short of our number 1 spot because at number 1, we got Killer B. Listen, the day that anybody else starts using 7 blades or more simultaneously, I will dethrone Killer B as the greatest Kenjutsu user in the Naruto universe.
I'll give that
However, on account of the fact that I never see that happening, Killer B...
I'm gonna say, I agree with it 100%. Killer B needs to be number 1 on the list. 8 swords at one time and got the dub. Like, although we only see him do this once, don't see him pick up a sword again. 8 swords at one time and taking down one of the strongest characters in the show. Maybe at the time he was still in the top 10 for strongest characters in the whole universe at the moment. Yeah. He needs to be number 1.
He is going to be the greatest Kenjutsu user to me in the Naruto universe pretty much forever. See, Killer B in his childhood only wielded 2 blades. However, as he perfected something known as his Disturbance Taijutsu, which was an unfamiliar and erratic taijutsu technique combined with another technique that he honed over the years of training called Acrobat, Killer B was slowly but surely able to train himself into being able to wield 7 blades simultaneously. And as these blades pretty much point in every possible direction around Killer B, not only has he flies towards you like Levi Ackerman with his eyes on Zeke, does he have some ridiculous offensive capabilities, but he's also got some ridiculous defensive capabilities because, mind you, his entire body is surrounded by blades. Blades that, mind you, he is constantly throwing into the air as a distraction, but keeping an eye on as he attacks you with blades that are tucked behind his knee pit. And the flurry of these blades is so absurd that even the wielder of a dual MS in Sasuke had trouble keeping up with all of the blades as Killer B was coming at him with them. And the second that Killer B identifies an opening, he's able to use his swords as projectiles to pierce his opponent with deadly precision. And on top of the 7 swords that Killer B uses, he's able to create an 8th sword using Gyuki's chakra. On top of that, should he be trying to cut through something that he can't cut through, he can apply lightning release to his sword to increase its cutting ability. Something that he displayed after Suigetsu was able to block one of his attacks using the Executioner blade. I mean, this is the man that trained Omui and Karui in Kenjutsu, and the man that Samehada left Kisame for. I mean, sure, you can say, oh, Samehada going to Killer B was always a plan of Kisame's, but Samehada literally refused to bite off Killer B's legs because it loved Killer B so much. And Killer B was shown to be as proficient as a user of Samehada as Kisame. But Kisame couldn't hold 7 swords simultaneously. So yeah, when it comes down to who's the greatest swordsman in Naruto, the answer is easily Killer B. Or at least for me. But who is it for you guys?
And I'll say that too. For me, it's always going to be Killer B. Like, now I might have some arguments on what you might do with the rest of the top 3. Like, I think Sasuke does still deserve to be in there. I think there's an argument at least for 2 and 3. I can see why you would have Mifune 2, so I wouldn't even be mad at it. Me personally, I'm going to have Sasuke 2, Mifune 3. And Orochimaru needs to go off the list. But outside of that, everything else was kind of cool for me. So let me know what you guys think, though, down below. Where are you guys' opinions on that? Who is your top 3? Because I feel like we should all agree on the number 1. But if you have a different number 1, let me know down in the comment section, too, down below. Who would you be rocking with and why? And we got that debate down below, man. I would love to see you guys get down there, and I'll get active with you guys in those comments so we can see what everybody's feeling about this. But let me know what you guys want to see in the next episode. Those anime reviews are coming soon, so please go vote on that poll so I can get those videos out to you guys as soon as possible. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. It's me, your boy Sean, this movie, Black Okage, Black Avatar, King Leo. Catch you guys in the next video, man. I'm gone for the day. Peace.